Northern Mystics lead the pack again. The title defence of the defending champions, the Queensland Firebirds, is all but over. The Thunderbirds and the Swifts have their seasons back on track, and the Magic take their winning streak to 6 games in a row and continue to stalk the top 4. As I say hello and welcome to Centre Pass, the official video podcast of the ANZ Championship. Dan Ryan here alongside Sharelle McMahon. And Sharelle, an absolute cracking round of the ANZ Championships. But probably the biggest thing is the Queensland Firebirds, their title defence is on absolute shaky ground.
Well, that's right. And I mean, we still see that top 4 just shuffling for position, really. And the Firebirds, they've had a really tough start to the season, kind of picked things up a little bit, and I thought maybe they were coming back, but yeah, it's going to be tough from here, and they need things to go their way. So they are still a chance, but it's a tough position from here. Yeah,
very slim chance for the Queensland Firebirds. Let's check out all of the scores of round 11 from the ANZ Championship. Of course, it started with the Adelaide Thunderbirds defeating the defending champions by 5 goals in Adelaide. It was then a big comeback from the New South Wales Swifts against the West Coast Fever in Perth. They took that one 51-49. The Magic 10-goal winners against the Central Pulse, a great win there for the Waikato team. And the Mystics, too good for the Southern Steel in Auckland on Monday night. The Vixens and the Tactics having the bite. Sharelle, let's talk about the first game, the Thunderbirds and the Firebirds. It was a close first quarter, the Firebirds starting off the stronger, but a second quarter effort from the Adelaide Thunderbirds, 16-11, was the difference in the end.
It was, really. There was a bit of an injury timeout just partway through that first quarter, and from there, the Thunderbirds really just powered on. And I thought early in the game that we were seeing the Firebirds of old with their intensity on the ball and really feeding the ball in beautifully to Romelda Aiken. But one of the real features for me was watching Shani Layton and the defence that the Thunderbirds put on what is a really potent Firebirds attack line.
Fair to say too, one of the features of that match was the shooting percentage of the Adelaide Thunderbirds, 54 from 56 at 96% for the match. Carla Borrego, 100%, 35 goals, and Erin Bell not bad either at 92%.
Oh, not bad, absolutely. I'm sure everyone would be really happy with that as a shooter. And you know, Carla Borrego was incredibly strong on the hold underneath the circle against Laura Geitz, who's such a fantastic defender, and I was impressed with Erin Bell. I thought she was a bit quiet last week against the Vixens, but I thought she really found her spot again in that goal attack position and ran the front of Carla really well.
The Thunderbirds went into that game with a lot of pressure on them, having dropped their last 2 games. Of course, they got smashed by the Vixens and then lost by a goal to the Central Pulse. A lot of pressure on them, but they probably performed the best they have throughout the whole season against the Firebirds. Yeah, and
it was one thing that I was really interested in seeing how they coped with that pressure. It wasn't just pressure from outside, but it was certainly the pressure they put on themselves. They spoke about it a lot in the lead up to the game, even pre-game, and you could see the intensity in their face with what that game actually meant to them, and they coped very well. I think maybe a bit nervous early, which allowed the Firebirds to get on top, but after that they were just on everything. And interestingly for the Firebirds, with a match like that, their season was on the line. I kind of felt like the intensity was there for the Thunderbirds, but not as much for the Firebirds, which was an interesting one for me.
Sharelle, make a call. Are the Firebirds done, or are they still going to make the top 4?
Look, I think they're done. I'm making the call here that I think that I kept saying through the season they can come back, they've got the talent there, but they haven't, and it's tough to do it in this really last part of the season and relying on other results. So I think it's going to be tough from here for them.
All right, Sharelle, let's have a look now at the New South Wales Swifts and the West Coast Fever. It was a 2-goal victory for the New South Wales Swifts. The Swifts started the game the better, 4-goal leaders at quarter time, but then a really impressive second and third quarter from the Fever saw them 4 goals up going into the last change.
That's right, and this just goes to show what this Fever team is capable of, being able to really step up against a team. Yes, they're only 4th on the ladder in the Swifts, but they really have been pushing a lot of the top teams. So they have a lot of talent there. We always speak about this youth and enthusiasm that they have, but at some stage they've got to turn that into some results. They almost have on a number of occasions over the last few weeks, but just haven't been able to get there.
The Fever got out to a 7-goal lead in that last quarter. The Swifts made a few changes in that last quarter, one notable one being Sonia McClellan bench for April Letton. April did a fantastic job, but a team like the Fever with Catherine Cox and a target like Caitlin Bassett in the goal circle, if you're 7 goals up, you would almost think that would have to bring you home.
Well, and maybe they thought that. I don't know what was going through their minds exactly, but certainly with targets like that in that attacking lineup and with the way they were playing, they were playing some, really solid attacking play. Yeah, I thought that when that 7-goal lead came up, I thought, yep, they've probably got this one, but unfortunately let it slip.
They've had a really interesting couple of weeks, the West Coast Fever. They lost to the Firebirds by a goal after potentially probably should have won that game, and then they let the 7-goal lead slip against the Swifts. Coach Norma Plummer labelled her team soft at the end of the game, took them right off the court and gave them a bit of a spray. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, if anyone's been coached by Norma, we've all been there before. And she certainly would be laying it on the line for them. It'd be really frustrating, not just for Norma, but of course for the players when, they're really putting out some great performances, but just not being able to get there. I don't know if soft's necessarily the right way to label it. I think it's just, having that little bit of finishing confidence and that belief that they can actually do it. So that'll come.
Well, the win for the Swifts puts them back into the top 4. Sherelle, let's now have a look at the Magic and the Pulse. It was a 10-goal victory for the Magic, their 6th win in a row, and it stops the winning streak of the Central Pulse. They've, of course, won their last 3, but it was the Pulse that led at half-time, playing really well, but a tremendous second half from the Magic.
And we're seeing that quite a bit with the Magic, that they just seem to be kind of starting slowly, finding their way into a game and then absolutely crushing teams in the second half. And it's a little bit scary, I'm sure, for teams as they really hunt a position in that top 4. And, Irene Van Dijk shooting 34 from 35, so she's getting some great volume and percentage, and their guns really are starting to stand up, aren't they?
Well, they have some of the biggest names in netball, and when they're firing, that team can beat anyone. I think the teams in the top 4 at the moment, if Magic can sneak in there, they're a real threat to go all the way.
Oh, without a doubt, because of the talent they've got there. And, we've seen Casey Williams, we've spoken about a little bit. She's had some issues with an ankle injury, and perhaps that's holding her back a bit. But that defensive combination she's got with Liana De Bruin is just starting to build, and those connections right through the court are looking really good now.
Well, let's check out the ladder after 11 rounds of the competition, and this is how it stands at the moment. The Northern Mystics are the clear front runners at the moment, 2 points ahead of the Melbourne Vixens in second, the Thunderbirds in third, and the Swifts rounding out the top 4, but keeping a close eye on the Magic and the Firebirds, both still legitimate chances to make that top 4.
Yeah, they are, and with the loss that the Pulse had against the Magic, they're definitely out now, so they're out of the finals race, but there's still legitimately 6 chances, but it's getting tight now, and those Magic and Firebirds, as we've mentioned, need to rely on other results.
Sherelle, big round of the ANZ Champs. Who was your performer of the week for round 11?
Well, my performer of the week, she only took the court for a quarter. Adine Wilson took the court for the steal. They've had some issues with injuries through their mid-court. Captain of the Silver Ferns, 33 years old, come back after having a baby a couple of years ago, and, she just kind of finding her feet, but she only had trained once with the team. So I thought that was a great effort to slip back into the team.
All right, my performer of the week goes to the Adelaide Thunderbirds goal shooter, Carla Borrego. She becomes the 6th player in history to join the Perfect Shooters Club. She joins Catherine Latu, Irene Van Dijk, Donna Wilkins, Susan Prattley and Tegan Caldwell. So a terrific effort from Carla Borrego.
Absolutely, and that group is growing rapidly this season. There's a lot of 100% shooters out there.
Well, now time to preview round 12 of the ANZ Championship, a huge round in the context of this competition. These are the games coming to you. It is the Vixens taking on the Fever on Sunday in Melbourne, the Swifts and the Thunderbirds in Sydney. A huge one in Auckland, the Mystics taking on the Magic, and then in Invercargill on Monday night will be the Steel taking on the Canterbury Tactics, the Queensland Firebirds and Central Pulse having the bye. Sherelle, we'll quickly touch on the Melbourne Vixens and West Coast Fever. They met in round 2, a 9-goal victory to the Melbourne Vixens, but an important game for the Vixens to make sure they keep their finals chances trucking along nicely.
Definitely, and all of these matches we'll speak about have an implication on the top 4, and it depends who wins and who loses and what the percentages are, so I won't talk too much about that, but it is an important one for the Vixens for their finals and for their form going in after coming off a win last week after a couple of losses.
Big game we want to have a look at is the Swifts against the Thunderbirds. It's 3rd versus 4th being played in Sydney. It's going to be quite a huge game. They met in round 1. It was a 17-goal victory to the Thunderbirds. But in that game for the Swifts, no Vanessa Ware, no Monia Gerard. Whole new ball game this weekend.
Oh, a whole new ball game, definitely. And not only are those players coming in, but the Swifts are in a completely different form that they were at the start of the season. They've really started to grind out some great wins. So it's by no means a certainty for the Thunderbirds, and it's going to be a great game.
If the Thunderbirds win, they can potentially jump to 1st on the ladder. If the Swifts win, they can climb up, but if they lose, they can fall out of the top 4.
Yeah, well, that's right, and that's, as I mentioned, that's what this top 4 is like at the moment. It's just so dependent on these results, and the Swifts have some percentage issues, so they really need to keep winning.
Biggest game of the round, one of the biggest games of the season is going to be the All New Zealand clash between the Magic and the Mystics. We can't wait for this one. We've got one team in the Magic fighting for their life to get into the top 4 and another team in the Mystics trying to secure the minor premiership and secure that home semi-final.
Absolutely, and how important is that home semi-final for the Mystics? We've not seen one in the competition history, so it'll be great to see that. And the Magic, they are there. We've spoken about how their form is going and it's building and building, and this is going to be just an absolute scrapping fight, I think, and I can't wait. I think it'll be a great game.
The Magic have the best percentage of any team in the competition at the moment, and because they're not in the top 5, it's a really dangerous position for the other teams to be in, knowing how good their goal percentage is. Also worth noting too that for the first time in the competition last year, the Mystics were the number 1 ranked New Zealand team. The Magic have never missed the finals in the 5 years of the championship.
That's right. I mean, great history from the Magic, and that's been a bit of a handover, but as we've spoken about, so much talent in that Magic team, and they're hitting form at the right time of the season.
Well, Sherelle, in more good news, I've had a 4 from 4 tipping week. You've only got 2, so I've jumped ahead by 2 in our tipping competition.
Great news.
Who are you backing for round 12 of the ANZ Champs?
Okay, my tips for this week are the Vixens, the Thunderbirds, the Mystics just over the Magic, I'm not sure about that one, and the Steel over the Tactics.
All right, I'm going to increase my lead, I think, by 1. I'm going to go the Vixens, the Thunderbirds, the Magic over the Mystics, and the Southern Steel to get over the line against the Canterbury Tactics. Well, that is about it for another episode of Centre Pass. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you jump on to the ANZ Champs website, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, check out the 10 Sport website in Australia, and of course the Sky Sport website in New Zealand. Sherelle McMahon, thank you once again.
No problem, thank you.
And make sure you check out your local guides for all the broadcast details of round 12 of the ANZ Championship. It's going to be a beauty. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye for now. Thank you to our sponsors, our principal sponsor,
Associate sponsors,
support sponsors and suppliers,
and our broadcast partners.